And now Kasparov goes for a6, covering the b5 square so that white can't place these knights. And here white goes for an interesting move, f4. This is basically the start of a kingside pawn storm. Moves like f4 are very common in this line. The main idea is to control the e5 square and later to push g4 and then g5. For beginners, f4 may look like just grabbing the space, but for the intermediate or advanced player, this clearly follows the English attack pattern. And basically, the English attack patterns means that this is basically an attacking setup where white launches a pawn storm on the king side, while black usually castle short side. And here Kasparov continues with bishop to e7. Okay, so now bishop to d7, and now just look at these two pawns, which basically aimed at countering the white center. Okay, so now knight to b3 by white. Basically, he retreats back this knight so that he can avoid the move e5. And now bishop to f3, and now you can see what is white going to do next. So that's why to stop this, queen to c7 by Kasparov, covering the e5 square so that white can't push further. And since black is now threatening to push b4, so to stop this, and now rook to b8, which means he desperately wants to push b4. And basically, here queen to e1 by white. Clearly, he wants to place this queen on g5 so that he can target on g7. So, to tackle this, castling might be the best option. But instead, Garry goes for a5. And you can see he is now threatening to push either the b pawn or the a pawn. But here's the move that white can consider, basically, which is knight to d4. But what about the move b4? And if this happens, then simply knight at c goes to b5, attacking this queen. And let's suppose if this queen goes to b7, now white can break the center by pushing e5. And if d takes e5, f takes e5, attacking this knight. So that's why knight to d5, attacking this bishop. So that's why bishop takes d5, e takes d5, and at the end you can see white rooks gets an open a file, and white can continue this attack by queen to g3, targeting the g7 pawn. And if you are thinking to castle, hoping that now my king is safe, but guys, what about the move bishop to h6, threatening mate in one? And to defend this, the only move is to pushing g6, and instead of capturing the rook, here black will firstly go for queen to f4, creating excess pressure over the f7 pawn. And clearly you can see this is completely winning for white. But after the move a5, yeah, let me go back. Here white goes for queen to g3, which is a slight inaccuracy because yes, this queen is targeting on g7, but black can easily counter this by just castling, and then white cannot continue this attack because this queen is unsupported, as well as this g3 square is now weakened, and basically this is exposed. But instead of castling, here Kasparov decides to push a4, attacking this knight. And again, guys, castling might be the best option, but in this position, Kasparov blunders by b4. And at that time, this move was considered a brilliant move by commentators because it had a simple idea. Kasparov just want to open the queen side, which is good, but what I want to tell you that in the modern time, this move is considered as a blunder because now white can continue this game by pushing e5, attacking this knight, and after, let's suppose, d takes e5, f takes e5. And guys, this is the point from where this game becomes interesting. Since this knight is attacked, so where are you going to place this knight? I mean, this knight cannot go back to g8 for sure because due to the threat of queen takes g7, and you can see black has to lose his rook. And yes, black can also capture on c3, but then white will simply capture on g7, and obviously you don't want to allow the queen into the territory because black is not castled till yet. And the only safe square for this knight is to d5. So let's suppose if this knight goes for d5, and guys, that will be a huge blunder because of knight takes d5, e takes d5, queen takes g7, attacking this rook. So that's why rook to f8, and finally bishop takes d5. And you can see now multiple pieces are targeting. You can see now multiple pieces are targeting on f7. And let's suppose if this game continues like queen takes c2, now comes bishop takes f7 check, king to d8, and finally e6. And now you can see no one in this earth can save this game for black. So that's why let me go back to the move, which is which is this move. So that's why so basically here the best move for black is to give up this knight and to just go for the move which is g6. And guys, that's a very beautiful move because let's suppose if white captured this knight, now comes bishop to d6, attacking this queen, and obviously white queen can't go to g4. Let me know in the comments that why this queen can't go either to g4 or to g5. Okay, so if white goes for, let's suppose, queen to h4, which makes sense because it's also defending on this h2 square. But now comes b takes c3, bishop takes c3, and finally rook to b5. And you can see now white also gets and you can see now black also gets this this amazing square for this rook, as well as a support of this queen and a bishop. And yes, white is still better, but in this position, if white does a single mistake or a blunder, then it will lead to a equal position or maybe winning for black. Okay, so in the actual game, after the move b4, yep, after this move, here white obviously missed that, and he also blunders by capturing on b4, allowing Kasparov to develop his rook. And guys, again white can consider pushing e5, but instead he goes for bishop to c3, attacking this rook. But this is of no use because Kasparov instantly goes for rook to c4. And guys, here Kasparov takes on e5, but now for white it's better to recapture with the bishop, but instead he made a mistake by f takes e5. And now the move knight to e4 is basically winning for black, which is attacking this queen. And let's suppose if bishop takes e4, simply rook takes e4, attacking this knight. And if this knight goes further, queen to c5 check, king to h1, bishop to c6. And again you can see black pieces are placed properly, directly eyeing on the king's side, and this is also winning for black. But after this move, here Kasparov goes for knight to d5. Clearly he wants to go for knight to e3. So to stop this, okay, so now Kasparov goes for this move queen to e4 and basically attacking this pawn. But guys, defending this pawn is not a good idea for white. I mean, let's suppose if white protects this pawn by rook at a goes to c1, but now comes this amazing move a3, trying to destroy this structure. And let's suppose if white avoid this exchange and he just pushed this pawn further. And guys, now there are multiple ways for black to continue this game. Here, basically, black can sacrifice his bishop on h3 so that he can deflect this queen and capture this bishop on c3. Or let's suppose, basically, black can also go for rook to c7, uh, and then he can just take this, and basically then he can just double this rook, or maybe he can just try to promote this pawn. And you can see in all the ways black is winning. So that's why after the move queen to e4, here white decides to attack this queen by rook at a goes to e1. And now Kasparov just captured on c2. And guys, now white can attack this queen again by either rook to c1 or maybe by rook to f2. But instead here white blunders by rook to e2. And guys, now I just want you all to pause the video and think that what will you play as of black. And if you find the move rook takes f4, then congratulations, you are a genius. Because if white captured this rook either with the queen or with the rook, in both the cases white is going to in both the cases you can see black is going to capture this rook. And if let's suppose white tries to capture this queen, then boom, checkmate. But I still can't believe that after rook to e2, basically Kasparov missed this move and instead he goes for queen to f5. And basically he pins this knight. So to unpin this, and now you can see these bishops are placed perfectly. Okay, so basically Kasparov goes for h4 and obviously attacking this queen, and white cannot capture this pawn due to the threat of pushing this pawn to g5. So that's why he goes for queen to h2, and after that queen to g5, creating pressure over the g2 pawn. And since black can increase the pressure at any time with bishop to e3, so to prevent this, he simply brings this knight to d3, attacking this dark square bishop. Okay, so now rook to d8, and basically he defends this bishop, and here white must consider attacking this queen by moving this rook to g4, but instead he goes for rook at d goes to f1. He basically creates pressure over the f7 pawn, which Kasparov easily defends this by rook to d7, and after that bishop to e1. He tries to create pressure over the h4 pawn, but in this position, the final move by Kasparov is bishop takes e5. And in this position, Magramov resigned, because one thing is obvious, that white cannot capture this rook due to the threat of bishop takes queen. And let's suppose if white decides to capture this bishop by knight takes e5, now comes rook takes f4. Rook takes f4, queen takes e5, attacking this bishop. So that's why bishop to f2. And since this first rank is now open, so black can give a check. And yeah, bishop to g1. And now comes this another beautiful move, which is bishop takes g2 check. And if white captured with the queen, then black will capture this rook. So that's why king to g2 is forced. But now white can give a check, black can give a check by queen to g5. And if rook to g4, or maybe if this king moves, in both the cases this is losing because of the same identical type of variation, which is queen to d5 check, king to f2, and finally rook to d2 check. And in the next move, this queen is gone. What an amazing calculation and game by Garry Kasparov. That's why we called him the greatest chess player of all time. Like this video, and I will see you in the next one. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.